I want you to imagine you're a detective. You're Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot or you name it. You have been hired to solve the mystery of a rich woman's stolen jewels. She had priceless gems kept in her locked jewelry box, and the lock is still there, but the gems are gone. Someone opened it up, stole the gems, and ran off. And only three people had the proper key to the lock. And by the way, this is just to this lock. Don't copy it. Don't try to make your own key. It's not going to get you into my house. So you have your suspects. You have your contradiction, which is the crux of all mysteries. The story can continue. Because that's what most mysteries are. They're a contradiction. They are two true facts that can't both be true, surely. Except they can. Through investigation, the rest of the confounding variables and explanations come together, solving the logical puzzle of how both of those things were true, who did it, why, how to catch them, how to get the confession, which is very important, and how to bring justice back to the situation. That's what people are looking for in these kinds of mystery stories, and they will accept the rules as given. If you, in any other genre, if you pointed out that, oh, they can't get into the principal's office because it's locked, that's not really true. Like, locks just slow people down. They present a small impediment. Like, everyone, I'm sure, has seen an example of someone stuffing a bobby pin into a lock and popping it open, or sliding a credit card into the gap at the door jamb and getting the door open. Every other storytelling genre knows that a lock is just a hurdle that the character has to engage with for a moment and then they can get through it. But a mystery has to treat locks like an ironclad rule, or immediately tell the reader that the lock is not really a lock. That is an option. You can have the detective immediately say, oh, that lock's junk. Here, you can just force it open and no one will be any the wiser. If you don't immediately say this isn't a rule of the puzzle, the reader is going to give that bit of suspension of disbelief, and they're going to continue with the story with that as a rule, even though they may know better. Because, it's 2023. It's not 1923. We have the internet. We have so much knowledge at our disposal that everyone has probably seen Lockpicking Lawyer or some variant, or they've heard of it, or maybe they personally experienced it because someone they know looked it up and they wanted to demonstrate how easy it is to open locks. And a lot of people nowadays know that a cheap lock, you can just get a bit of tension in there, and then you slide something inside that's flexible enough to fit in, and it just kind of pops open. I've seen locks that you can slide a piece of aluminum can down, and it shims the pin open. I have personally seen people grab master lock combination locks, and you just kind of pull on it slightly to create some internal tension. And then as you turn, the pin sets, and you can feel that set. Then you turn it the other way until you feel the pin again. And then you turn it again. And then boom, a stranger's lock is open and you're in their locker. That actually happened in my high school. Everyone who heard about it, I'm pretty sure, went and bought a different lock. But all cheap locks are like that. They're all kind of junk in a way. You can buy very expensive locks nowadays that are difficult and not trivial to get inside of, but someone who knows what they're doing can still get in without the key. And readers nowadays can really understand that you're lying to them if you say that a key is needed to open a lock. Now, writers lie to their readers all the time. Most of the story is lying. But a lot of the story is convincing the reader that you're not going to screw them, that you're going to give them something satisfying in the end. And that's the give and take of suspension of disbelief. If you want your reader to believe that a key is needed to open a lock, even though they know better, because they've been told better, because it's genuinely interesting content to see how easy it is to bypass what looks secure. Because look at this loop. This shackle loop is thick metal Even though we all kind of know that a trip to Home Depot and some bolt cutters will rip through this. But they'll give that suspension of disbelief. And they don't want to be let down. They don't want the grand twist at the end to be that, oh, it was someone else that popped it open. The three key holders, they were just red herrings. I personally think that most red herrings are a mistake. They probably shouldn't be used at all, because they're almost always going to come across as a waste of the reader's time. You have to be very careful with those, in my opinion. Now, that said, 100 years ago, I don't think that was much of an issue. I think a lot of people took it at face value because the knowledge spread was not as immediate and severe. Let me talk a bit more generally, because maybe 100 years ago, people acknowledged that locks kind of sucked. But really, this can apply to anything that forms a rule in a mystery. If it's about something that the author is not immensely familiar with, there is the slightest problem. One smug person can go on the internet and tell everybody about it. And that's the kind of thing that gains traction, because people love the secondhand feeling of smug that someone who was supposed to be smart was actually dumb. An author who was supposed to do their research made a mistake. People love to engage with that. Every social media algorithm out there will confirm that. But how's an author supposed to avoid that? Are they supposed to research everything until they can design every single part from scratch? That's just not feasible. The author just has to be asking for that suspension of disbelief, and the reader needs to give that. And the author needs to respect that suspension of disbelief has been given and give them a satisfying ending to the story without cheating them. And that's on the quality of the author. I just ask that the readers realize that they are there in the story to have a good time. You read a story to be entertained, unless you're reading nonfiction or something and you're trying to learn. A detective pulp novel is there for entertainment. You need to be trying to enjoy the story, and sometimes that means accepting a bold-faced lie, such as you need a key to open a lock. So this has been probably my first video of a lot I'm going to do on detective stories, because I write detective stories in a sense. And I'm struggling with the fact that as technology progresses, the ability to weave a mystery keeps butting up against new technology solving those problems and making it more and more obvious that there should be solutions to this. Like, just rewind a few years and all of a sudden people started having doorbell cams as normal. And all of a sudden now a police officer can very reasonably say, oh, you think it's the guy that visited you X days ago. Well, let's get a picture of him, because you didn't get his name, but hey, you private homeowner have a camera recording outside now, so we can actually get his picture and run him through the database. And that's just something that wasn't available to a Sherlock Holmes, to a Hercule Poirot. The technology is changing what is available, and most importantly, what the reader knows is available, because you can't forget something exists, or the reader is going to think the detective is stupid. And no one wants to read a mystery solved by a stupid detective. Well, maybe if it's comedy. No, that's it. I'm James Craig. I write books, mostly sci-fi. I do write detective stories. I read a bunch of detective stories. And you should hit that subscribe button right now, because you made it to the end, and hopefully I entertained you. Have a good one.